Hi all, and now we are into the last step. Just open the notepad. Yeah. So now we are in the last step, like client application, which uses the JKS file from the vault. So coming back to this particular diagram, where I can show you what is that we're gonna explain here in this particular video. So right. So in the previous video, we saw about how the certificate management web application can be is created, and what are the features that it provides, like adding a JKS file, adding a CRT file for to an existing JKS file. How do you override a certificates for a particular certificate after seeing the expiration date? So all those features we saw from this particular web application. And one another important thing we also handled in this application is to say, for example, this application will tell you what are all the applications and what are the certificates supported for or needed for that particular application, right? So there are nothing but these are the clients for this particular web application one is one of the client, application two is another client. So basically, when say for example as an admin, you update the certificates, the certificates will go and get updated in the Azure Vault, right? But as an application perspective, um, most of the time, what happens when you are starting this application, it will pick the value from the vault, and then after it will just uses those value, right? It will either it has to keep look after or check the vault for every changes, or whenever there is any change happening in the vault has to push the changes back to the application so that the application will be aware of the changes. Here in this case, assume a certificate is updated by the admin and is updated to the vault, but application will not be aware of what is that change. What is that certificate change has made, right? Only if that is application is aware of, then only then when it's make a call to the respective application, either X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, right? It can pick the updated certificate. Otherwise, it cannot. So considering that, just for this demo purpose, what I did, I just make one API call from this admin to the respective application, saying that the certificate is updated. Once after the certificate is updated, right, I just make an API call to this application, and that API call, we what we did here is we just um, pulled from the vault the latest certificate from the vault, and that we will update in the REST template object. I will just show you that piece of code how we did. But basically what happened, this kind of an things will avoid the application to get restarted. Otherwise what happens, you have to restart your application, and then only the application, when it interacts with the other application, it will work. Otherwise it will not work. So this particular way of invoking this application avoids the restart for this application one. So this can be done in many ways. Either you can have a Kafka mechanism or any queue mechanism, so that you push the changes to this particular thing and notify. Basically, it's a notification, right? So you notify to the respective client who and all uses that particular certificates, and then in the respective application can pull the value from the vault and then can update the REST template object. So that can be done, but to avoid all other things, right, what I did, I just made a simple notification, like make a simple API call just to notify this application, and that application will be pulling the latest certificate from the vault, and then it updates the REST template object, so that this application will be avoiding the restart. So I'll just show you guys like how it works. If you see, right, now we are seeing these are the certificates coming from a particular JKS file, right? And I have made one client application called weather microservice. So here if you see, right, when there is one API where if at all you hit that API, you will get the distance between the two cities. Like this is that API, this is the and that particular application is running on this endpoint, and we have this API distance JSON and Mumbai to Thane, right? If you see here in this particular microservice, I'll show you that endpoint. What is that endpoint that we are hitting from the Postman? Or see, this is the endpoint that we are hitting. All that we are passing is passing the two cities name and JSON distance JSON. The same thing we are hitting from here, distance JSON, and city one, city two, point one, point two, basically. And in this, if you see in the update method, there is an API. This is an HTTPS method, HTTPS call. So if you see, when I open this thing, when I open this particular API. As it is an HTTPS, you will see the lock symbol, and then you need to click on connection is secure, click on certification is valid, and this is how you get the details of the certificate, right? You just click on details, and then this is the certificate. You just have to click on this particular certificate. This is called root, and this is called the end node, and this is called the root. This is called the root, and this is called the middle, and this is called the end node. You just have to click on export so that the respective certificate will get downloaded. So what I did, I just did downloaded the certificate, and then I kept it in my file system. But the current JKS file, whatever that we have in our thing, right, this particular certificate is not present. Okay, and that is why when I hit this endpoint, I'm getting error saying that handshake error, because the certificate, whatever that particular thing is looking for, is not present. Maps.google APIs, right? That particular API, whatever this particular API is looking for the certificate, this certificate is not present in my JKS file. So that is the reason when my client application, this particular application one, assume here this application 1 is nothing but the weather microservice, and application X is nothing but the Google Map API. So application 1 invokes the Google Map API to fetch some direction details or some distance API details, right? So that time it needs application X certificate. So this certificate, we are trying to get it from the vault. And now if you see, this application 1, when it starts, it will pull all the certificates from the vault. So for that, if you see in the weather microservices, we have this application where we are creating the REST template bean. So before creating the REST template bean, we are connecting to the vault, and we are pulling the respective certificate, pulling this JKS file, and we are creating the key store object, and then loading the socket connectory, socket factory, and then we are creating the HTTP client object, and then we are creating the REST template uh, out of the request factory, client HTTP request factory. So this is how we are creating the REST template. So basically this works properly when you start this application. At the start of the application, these beans getting created, right? That is when we added at bean. So now that what happened in the web application, this particular application, when we hit it, we are not seeing the respective certificate this application one needs. So for that, what we are going to do now, we are going to override the JKS file. So that what we did when I open the Keysore Explorer. Okay, there is one another JKS file I have in handy. This is the certificate, GTACA31CRT, right? This is a certificate which I already downloaded, and that certificate I added to this particular JKS file. So now what I can do, I can simply override this JKS file uh, in my web application, and then after I will hit my client, whether microservice, and then we can validate it whether it is working now or not. So to do that, what I'm doing, I'm going to my web application, certificate management web application. I'm going to choose file. Once again, I'll go to the place where my JKS file is present. JKS file application1.jks, right? I'm just uploading this JKS file, and now if you see, we are not having that particular certificate. Okay, and I'm doing an upload. So basically now what it is going to do, once it starts, as I said, when from our web application, right, we are calling the API, I said, right? If you see here, there is a method which I wrote it just to invoke the API. Okay, 1 second, I'll just show you that. Invoke client application. This is just a kind of a dummy thing. So I wrote it. If you see, I'm just calling that API from here, update REST template. And here in my client application, I haven't written I have written a separate endpoint which takes care of updating the REST template object. Right. So why we are doing this? This avoids the restart of the client. So if you see here, this picks the latest file, JKS file from Vault, and then after it hits, it updates your REST template object. So which means the same thing from the web application certificate web application, right? It automatically invokes this endpoint and it updates the REST template object. So this avoids a restart. As we have added, just I'm going to click on an upload JKS file, right? So once I uploaded this, existing JKS file will get overridden. So that is when, now if you see, right, whatever application 1 needs the certificate of the application X, only then it can connect to that respective API. Nothing but the weather microservice. Weather microservice is my application 1, and application X is nothing but my Google API. So now this application 1 going to get the certificate from the vault. So that we will see here. Now if you see, we have overridden the JKS file, right? The JKS file which is having that particular certificate. This GTSCA is a certificate that is needed, nothing but the Google API certificate. So that is now present in the JKS file that we have overridden here. And now if you come down in the same page, you can see that certificate added, GTSCA. This is nothing but the certificate of the Google map.google API, right? That particular certificate, it got added to the JKS file now. So now in the client, if you see, you just have to just refresh this page without even having to restart the application. And now if you reiterate, when we are able to see retrieve the result from the API. And now if you're seeing, we are getting the response from the API basically. And how it is working? Because of this flow. The changes happened. You uploaded a new JKS file, right? Existing JKS file. You override it, and that JKS file containing the right certificate, and it updated to the vault. And this application is able to pull it from the vault because this guy has notified by an API call, and that API reaches this application. And after in that API, we wrote a code to pull it from the vault. And that is when this guy is making a call to Apex, or say for example Google Map API, that time it is working without even have to restart the application one. So the same thing we can even validate it from the vault as well. So I'm logging into the vault, and then I'm going to show you guys what is the recent update it has made. So I'm opening my vault. I'm going to my secrets object. I'm going inside my JKS file content, and I'm just doing a refresh, and I could see this is the current version it shows. And from the current version you can easily sense it out, like 11:52 is the timing, right? I mean, now it is 11:55. Just 2-3 minutes back we have overridden the JKS file, and that has updated here. And the same thing we are seeing it here, and that is when the same certificate comes and we are able to view it here. And that is when now this client application has started working. Hope you guys are able to understand the concept here. The overall objective thing what we are trying to convey here is based on this particular certificate management application, where you can manage n number of certificates that are needed for your application, and likewise you can have n number of applications as well. All these things can be managed at a single place, without even this avoids the headache of managing. Say for example, as an application owner, you may be an owner for multiple applications, and you need to track of each and every client or third party applications that we are using of, and then get their certificates, and then you have to update them, right, whenever it is getting expired. But all these headaches will get avoided, will be avoided if in case we have an application which does the same thing for us. Yeah, thanks all for watching the video.